It's midnight, and the streets are empty. You're walking home, headphones in, barely noticing the shadow that mirrors your steps from a distance. At first, it seems random, just someone passing by, but then subtle movements catch your eye. A pause here, a glance there. They're not lost. They're observing, calculating, and they already know something about you that you don't. What they're looking for could determine whether you become their next target or just another person who walks away safely. If criminology fascinates you and you want to understand these invisible predators before it's too late, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next video. Smash that like button, share this with someone who loves psychology and true crime, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. I love knowing how far these stories travel. Sociopaths don't pick victims randomly. Every choice is calculated, subtle, and based on psychological patterns that most people never even notice. Their first step is observation. The moment you enter their sphere, they begin collecting information: your behavior, habits, body language, social reactions, and even the way you interact with strangers. Every gesture, every pause, every nod is recorded in their mental map. Unlike impulsive criminals, sociopaths are methodical. They don't need to confront immediately. They study, they predict, and they plan. They are experts at reading subtle human signals, the way a polite person hesitates to speak up, the small signs of discomfort in unfamiliar situations, or the tendency to apologize too quickly. To them, these aren't minor traits, they are markers of vulnerability. A sociopath's intelligence is often underestimated. They think several steps ahead, like a chess master, plotting interactions that test boundaries, patience, and predictability. They are attracted not to aggression, but to compliance, the people who will unconsciously make their job easier. If you are too trusting, too polite, or too eager to please, you're sending a beacon that says, "I can be influenced." Observation is only the beginning. Sociopaths often create micro-tests to measure emotional and behavioral responses. Imagine a casual interaction in a cafe. They might ask a seemingly harmless favor. "Could you watch my bag for a moment?" While you think nothing of it, they are watching every micro-expression: the hesitation, the tone of voice, the body shift. These tiny reactions tell them more than words ever could. They reveal whether you are predictable, compliant, and susceptible. They also watch social dynamics carefully. Sociopaths assess who has influence over you, who could intervene, and who might notice patterns of manipulation. They study relationships like a map, calculating risk and opportunity. Someone surrounded by protective friends or a strong social network is less appealing than someone socially isolated or overly accommodating. But here's the disturbing part. Even politeness can be a weapon in their hands. A kind, polite person often tries to rationalize or justify suspicious behavior. Sociopaths exploit this instinct, creating scenarios that appear harmless but are carefully designed to gauge reactions. Every small action is a data point in their mental spreadsheet. They are not impulsive. Patience is their greatest weapon. A sociopath can spend weeks, months, or even years testing boundaries, observing reactions, and learning patterns, all without the target realizing they are being studied. Their prey is chosen not for convenience: someone who hesitates to say no, someone who values harmony over confrontation, or someone who over-apologizes. All these traits signal low resistance. Even seemingly small social cues matter. The way you answer the phone, respond to a stranger's greeting, or react to unexpected interruptions can signal your level of assertiveness and compliance. Sociopaths notice, they catalog, they categorize, and they decide whether engaging with you will yield results. These predators don't need you to make a mistake to target you. They are already watching, already calculating, and already planning. Awareness alone is the first shield, but most people walk through life blind to these signals. You think you're just being friendly, polite, or helpful. Maybe you even pride yourself on being considerate. But in the eyes of a sociopath, your politeness is a map, a blueprint for manipulation. Every smile, every nod, every small compromise you make is being scrutinized. They're not asking themselves if you'll help them out of kindness. They're asking, how far can I push this? How predictable are your reactions? And they already know more about your behavior than you do. Sociopaths are meticulous when it comes to testing potential victims. Unlike impulsive criminals, they rely heavily on small, incremental tests designed to probe compliance, hesitation, and emotional responses. These tests are rarely obvious. In fact, they are often so subtle that most people don't realize they're being evaluated at all. One of the first strategies sociopaths use is the favor test. Imagine a casual acquaintance asking you to help them with a minor task, holding a bag, picking up an item, or giving directions. On the surface, it's completely ordinary. But the sociopath is observing micro-behaviors. Do you hesitate? How quickly do you comply? Do you make excuses? Or do you just say yes? Your body language, tone, and even micro-expressions are cataloged. A quick compliance signals high availability and low resistance, which increases the sociopath's confidence in targeting you later. Hesitation or assertiveness, conversely, may signal that you are less predictable and therefore less appealing. Another subtle test involves boundary probing. Sociopaths may attempt to cross social or personal boundaries incrementally, watching for how you react. For example, they might ask questions that are slightly too personal or comment on your habits in ways that feel mildly invasive. A polite person often rationalizes or downplays discomfort, perhaps offering a light-hearted response or shifting the topic, inadvertently signaling to the sociopath that they are flexible and compliant. Sociopaths also employ emotional manipulation tests. These are scenarios designed to trigger specific emotional reactions: guilt, embarrassment, or obligation. An example: I know this is sudden, but I really need your help. I wouldn't ask if it weren't urgent. Most polite individuals feel compelled to comply, especially if they are naturally empathetic. The sociopath records your willingness to respond to emotional cues and calculates how much influence they can exert. Social observation is another critical tool. Sociopaths watch how you interact with friends, colleagues, and strangers. They note who influences you, who defends or supports you. How do you react under social pressure? These observations allow the sociopath to map your vulnerabilities within social networks. Someone who can be influenced by group dynamics or someone hesitant to disagree publicly is much easier to manipulate. A sociopath is not just targeting you. They are targeting your social context, ensuring that resistance from others is minimized. Another tactic is the trust test. Sociopaths often present themselves as trustworthy or friendly to see if you will disclose personal information. This could be casual conversation. I feel like I can tell you anything, or subtle probing about your habits, routines, or social life. The sociopath observes whether you share too freely, whether you overshare details that can later be exploited. Every tiny disclosure becomes a piece of their map. Sociopaths are also masters of pattern recognition. They watch how you react to repeated scenarios. For instance, if someone subtly pressures you to agree on a small thing multiple times, do you start to comply automatically? Do you rationalize their requests to yourself? These behavioral patterns provide sociopaths with a roadmap of predictability, which is essential for planning further manipulation. A particularly insidious test is the conflict test. Sociopaths may introduce minor disagreements or provocations to observe how you respond under stress. Do you assert your position? Do you back down quickly? Do you apologize unnecessarily? Every response tells them something about your threshold for resistance, patience, and emotional regulation. Polite people who avoid confrontation often appear compliant and malleable, making them ideal candidates. It's not only about individual reactions. Sociopaths also consider cumulative behavior. They build an intricate profile over weeks or months. Each test, no matter how small, adds to their assessment. Are you predictable? Are you likely to be manipulated? Will you resist or comply when pressure escalates? Sociopaths are highly patient. A failed initial test rarely deters them. Instead, they adjust their strategy, conducting repeated micro-tests to refine their understanding of you. They measure verbal cues, body language, micro-expressions, emotional regulation, and decision-making speed. Every interaction becomes an experiment. You are unknowingly the subject. Consider real-life examples. Con artists often study their targets over days or weeks. They may start with small, harmless interactions and escalate only when they are confident of compliance. Cult leaders operate similarly, introducing minor requests or tests to evaluate loyalty before asking for extreme devotion or sacrifices. These patterns reveal the universal principles sociopaths use to evaluate potential victims. Sociopaths also exploit social norms and politeness conventions. In most societies, saying no repeatedly or expressing discomfort aggressively is frowned upon. Polite individuals who adhere to these norms unwittingly signal predictability and ease of influence. Sociopaths exploit these unwritten rules, using politeness as a lever for manipulation. Another subtle test is a response to urgency. Sociopaths create fabricated emergencies or time-sensitive scenarios to measure your compliance under pressure. They may say, "I don't have time to explain. Can you just do this?" Observing how you respond in such moments tells them how you handle stress, time pressure, and moral judgment under constraint. Importantly, sociopaths use microfavors to escalate. Small requests lead to larger requests over time, a strategy often called the futindador technique. Polite or accommodating individuals rarely resist minor requests, which encourages the sociopath to continue probing. Over time, this leads to a cycle of compliance and increasing influence. Sociopaths are experts in mental mapping. Every interaction, from your reaction to an unusual request, to the way you negotiate boundaries, to your response to social pressure, is logged in their subconscious profile of you. They simulate scenarios internally. If I ask this, what will they do? If I escalate, will they resist? Their predictions are usually precise because humans display surprisingly predictable behavioral patterns. When under subtle social influence, psychological red flags are also carefully noted. Sociopaths look for traits like over-apologizing, excessive agreeableness, reluctance to assert personal boundaries, and empathetic overextension. Each trait signals a higher likelihood of compliance, making these individuals attractive targets. Polite behavior, empathy, and compliance are not weaknesses. They are natural traits that make people social. But sociopaths exploit these traits with cold calculation. Their testing is not visible. It is subtle, incremental, and methodical. Most victims do not recognize the signs until they are deeply entangled in manipulation. Your everyday politeness, friendliness, and willingness to help can all be tests for a sociopath, and every small interaction matters. Recognizing the microtests early can prevent long-term exploitation, but awareness alone is often not enough. Knowledge must be paired with assertive behavioral change. It starts so subtly you don't even notice. A favor here, a small boundary tested there. You think it's just normal, everyday interaction, but over time, those tests become more deliberate, more personal, more intrusive. By the time you realize something is deeply wrong, the sociopath has already escalated control. Every conversation, every interaction, every hesitation on your part has been cataloged, analyzed, and is now being used against you. Once a sociopath has determined that you are a viable target through observation and subtle tests, they begin the phase of escalation and control. This is where their methods become systematic and psychologically manipulative. They rarely use overt aggression at this stage. Instead, their power lies in subtlety, precision, and psychological dominance. One of the most common escalation tactics is what I call incremental boundary expansion. The sociopath will gradually push against your limits, often in tiny, almost imperceptible steps. A favor that initially seems minor may later become a significant non-negotiable demand. Questions that once seemed casual now probe deep into your personal life and vulnerabilities. Each escalation is carefully timed, gauging your reaction. Polite individuals who naturally try to avoid conflict often give in without resistance, which only reinforces the sociopath's perception of control over them. Sociopaths also exploit your emotions. They know which buttons to press: guilt, empathy, obligation, and they test them methodically. They might say something like, "I can't do this alone. I really, really need your help." Or, "I would never ask if it weren't an absolute emergency." Polite people, empathetic by nature, feel compelled to comply. What seems like harmless kindness is actually a psychological trap, strengthening the sociopath's influence over time. A critical escalation technique is isolation. Sociopaths often work to subtly remove protective influences from your life. This might involve turning friends, colleagues, or even family members against you by sowing doubt or creating mistrust. Isolation increases your dependency on the sociopath and reduces the likelihood that anyone will interfere. Your world narrows, making it easier for the manipulator to control your behaviors, emotions, and decisions. Another hallmark of escalation is gaslighting, a systematic manipulation designed to make you doubt your own perceptions, your memory, and your judgment. A sociopath might flatly contradict facts, reframe events to suit their narrative, or deny previously agreed-upon realities. You begin to question yourself, often apologizing unnecessarily or over-explaining things, which only reinforces the sociopath's sense of dominance. They also exploit patterns they've observed during the initial testing phase. They know when you are most compliant, when stress reduces your resistance, and how just a little bit of subtle pressure can yield maximum control. Every small reaction you showed during the observation phase now becomes a tool for them to use. Consider this micro-manipulation over time. Minor favors become obligations. Casual social interactions are twisted into emotional leverage. Innocent questions become probing inquiries about your personal fears, your habits, and your vulnerabilities. They use subtle threats disguised as concern, like "I hope you don't let this slip," or "I thought I could trust you," just to maintain compliance. The escalation is both gradual and insidious. It rarely triggers an immediate alarm because each step seems reasonable or socially acceptable on its own. Polite individuals, who often value harmony and avoid confrontation, are particularly susceptible because they rationalize or justify each minor escalation. Sociopaths are also masters of predictive behavioral analysis. They mentally simulate your responses before they even ask or demand something. If they sense hesitation, they might back off temporarily or adjust their approach to reduce your resistance. If they perceive compliance, they continue to escalate. This dynamic makes you feel like the sociopath is attuned and understanding, when in reality, it's a calculated strategy to increase their control. In professional settings, sociopaths exploit hierarchy, rules, and workplace norms. They might assign tasks indirectly just to observe your compliance or resistance. They note your reactions to criticism, to ambiguity, or to moral dilemmas. Each reaction is cataloged, forming a psychological profile that guides their future manipulation. In personal relationships, escalation often involves creating emotional dependency. Sociopaths create scenarios where you feel needed, responsible, or indebted to them. "I can do this without you," or "you the only one who understands me," are common phrases designed to deepen your attachment. Over time, your autonomy is undermined, and you unconsciously begin to align with the sociopath's needs and demands. Sociopaths are also experts in timing. They know your daily rhythms, your emotional cycles, and your stress points. They introduce manipulative tactics at your moments of greatest vulnerability late at night, during a stressful period, or when your social support is absent. This timing amplifies the impact, making compliance more likely and resistance far less effective. Another critical element is reinforcement. Sociopaths reward compliant behavior and punish or withdraw attention when you test their boundaries. Positive reinforcement, praise, appreciation, or approval, strengthens the behaviors they want. Negative reinforcement, disapproval, withdrawal, or subtle intimidation discourages any form of resistance. Over time, this creates a pattern of learned compliance, where you unconsciously start to anticipate the sociopath's expectations just to avoid conflict. Escalation is not a straight line. It's a strategic dance. Sociopaths adjust their tactics based on your reactions, sometimes advancing rapidly, sometimes retreating temporarily. They are patient, viewing the relationship as a long-term project. They rarely act recklessly because their power depends on maintaining control and predictability. Importantly, sociopaths exploit social conventions. Polite individuals often avoid confrontation because of societal norms. Sociopaths recognize this and use it to their advantage, knowing that you are unlikely to assert your boundaries aggressively. Politeness, empathy, and compliance are therefore not weaknesses in general, but in the hands of a sociopath, they become powerful tools for manipulation. Case studies illustrate these patterns vividly. Consider long-term con artists who exploit their victims over months or even years. They begin with small interactions, gradually increasing their demands, isolating the target from support, and establishing psychological dominance. By the time the victim recognizes the manipulation, their perception of reality has been subtly altered, and escape becomes psychologically and emotionally challenging. Another example is cult leaders, who use these exact same escalation strategies: small favors, social tests, emotional dependency, and isolation. Members who initially participated willingly find themselves deeply controlled over time. Sociopaths rely on cumulative control tactics rather than dramatic, immediate domination. This is what makes their influence almost invisible until it's completely entrenched. Polite people are uniquely at risk because they often comply without realizing it. They rationalize questionable behavior, and they defer to social norms rather than asserting their boundaries. Sociopaths exploit this predictability using escalation as a slow, almost invisible, psychological siege. By understanding these patterns: observation, subtle testing, escalation, manipulation of emotions, and social isolation, you can begin to recognize the early warning signs. Awareness is critical, but so is action. Setting clear boundaries, maintaining your external support networks, and refusing to rationalize manipulative behavior are essential strategies for minimizing your risk. Sociopaths are strategic, calculating, and highly observant. The escalation phase represents the culmination of their earlier testing and observation, turning all that knowledge into power over you. Recognizing these tactics early can prevent long-term exploitation and psychological harm. If this video opened your eyes to how sociopaths escalate control over their victims, subscribe now so you don't miss our future videos exploring criminal psychology and manipulation tactics. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to protect themselves, and comment where you're watching from and what time it is. Seeing the global reach of these lessons is incredible. Thanks for watching.